There is an old saying, the two universal constants in life are death and taxes. And while death is truly unavoidable, there are some loopholes that make taxes a little more elusive. Case in point, see Mitt Romney's dancing horse. And of course, there's villages and tribes who've been untouched by civilized man, and the very concept of tax probably angers and infuriates them so much they keep throwing spears at our helicopters. But there are other constants that are truly universal. Birth, for starters, all the other messy biological functions, food porn, the discovery of cricket, and I suppose hay fever is a likely candidate. But the most important one by far is, and always will be, education. Without education, words would no longer have meaning. Even a series of grunts couldn't possibly convey the same thing when another person does the exact same series of grunts without a shared understanding of what gur ag hu flup means. By the way, it's could you please pass the jam? So, education, we can all agree, is a very important thing, and while not much has changed from our monosyllabic culture to now in terms of conveying a message, the tools and pathways we now use to pass on those messages is something of a problem. You see, while Ugg, over here, was trying to demonstrate the uses and benefits of his latest invention using nothing but the cave wall, some spit, a dried fig and lemon juice, 4 tribes over and 3 caves down, Wheel was showing off her new invention using half a coconut and a carved stone. Due to there being no patent office at the time, the wheel is now known as Wheel and not Ugg. In fact, it took several millennia for the word Ugg to enter our lexicon, but in a stroke of cosmetic irony, the inventor of the Ugg boot would lose millions in potential earnings for not filling a form at the patent office. So, why did Wheel's invention kick off, leading to a life of riches and only the choicest men clubbing over the head to drag her back to their caves, while Ugg was destined to a life of coaching prehistoric cricket? In a word, resources. In another word, technology. And that is what's shaping the classroom of tomorrow, and of course leading to a very big gap between the haves and the have-nots. While some schools are embracing technology, adapting and accepting the ever-presence of it in the classroom, others are not. And it's a shame because knowledge has never been this easy to access before. It's no longer a who knows what, but instead a who can access the information, filter out the spam and useless information and the misinformation before finding the quintessential truth of Edward Norton's character's name in Fight Club. Incidentally, he never had a name and only went by narrator, but you could make a strong argument that his name was, in fact, Jack. So, now we have a problem in what do we teach? Do we teach our students that Edward Norton's character was called the narrator, or do we teach the second, more controversial statement that his name could be Jack? Do we teach both, or do we teach them the tools and how to ascertain these two findings, how to research their hypothesis, and how to present that case to their peers, giving them the skills necessary to repeat the task for yet another issue? In this ever-changing technological world we live in, it's more relevant for the latter and would make more sense teaching the students how to use the keys to open the gateway to knowledge than just the knowledge itself. But here we find ourselves facing the largest problem with the education department. How do we test for that? While it's easier to test knowledge than it is to test someone's ability to find knowledge, hint, the answer is to Google it. The high school testing has gotten somewhat out of control, and while some subjects test better than others, see English and mathematics, it's kind of hard to test dance, or drama, or art. See, remember, we live in a world where this man drew this and got paid a small fortune. So clearly, something is at odds when it comes to anything that fits in the humanities box, and perhaps it's because those subjects are so subjective that they are penalised so heavily in the school system. So, I can ask what's 4 plus 2 and you can answer 7, and I can say you're wrong, but I can ask you to draw me a sunset and get 8 different responses, all correct in their own way. Or to act out the despair and inner turmoil of a misogynistic, alcoholic man-child helping his ever-optimistic brother dealing with a bitter divorce, you might choose this to turn this into a comedy. I would tell you that you're wrong, and then go into great detail of just how wrong you are, but then you could fly over to my house in your fancy private helicopter to have one of your 4 butler monkeys slap me for being insolent, and then jam a wad of $100 bills down my throat for wasting your time away from your very successful network television series. What I'm trying to say is, testing art is never going to be our species' strong suit. So, this brings us back to education and the point of education. If we can't judge, or at the very least should be encouraged to judge a little less, what are schools for? In my opinion, schools should be places where students can go to socialise with their peers. In more and more situations, the ability to do your job away from others has become relevant to a lot of people's interests. Your average university student after their first year comes away with 2, maybe 1 close friend, if that. The ability to socialise, and socialise well, needs to be something of a learned experience, and what better way to do that than in someone's formative years? But apart from my idea of school being the sweetest social gathering of the decade, schools need to be a place that enables the students to try new things, to be exposed to new ideas, to be creative, to express themselves through a multitude of different avenues, to experiment, to understand how the subjects they learn can directly influence their lives, and not just in their future, but in the immediate now, to give them the relevance, the context, their understanding that this isn't a waste of time, to provide basic life skills of growing up, of building relationships with others, to experience friendships, betrayal, loves and sadness, and to voice their concerns and opinions in a healthy, constructive environment, to build up their critical thinking and ability to reach out and help each other. But implementing that for a national-based school-wide curriculum, where the value isn't so much on a letter grade, but on being a valuable member of a social cohort, I just don't think our society is ready or willing to do this. Instead, I think we can start somewhere a little less radical and a little more realistic. Something more tangible that requires almost minimum effort and only requires the smallest changes in how we do things now. Start the school day at 10 a.m. Now hear me out. Most of you watching this are probably sleep-deprived yourself and in need of an extra nap or 3. As a teenager, this is doubly true, particularly when you add in the hormonal shifts that make teens not tired late at night. So, forcing them out of bed in the early hours of the morning just compounds them with sleep debt that they'll never be able to pay back. For a brief reason why that's a bad thing, here are some of the short and long-term consequences lack of sleep provides. Decreased daytime alertness, impaired memory and cognitive ability, impaired immune system, high blood pressure, heart attack, heart failure, stroke, depression, mental impairment, obesity, increased mortality risk. We've known for a long time now that teens need a good 9 hours of sleep a night, but in reality are getting closer to 6.9. To throw anecdotal evidence into the mix, we have a school in England notice a drop in persistent absenteeism by 27% when they push back their start time by an hour. Another in Canada noticed a drop in mathematical failure from 45% to just 17%. The students are saying they are less depressed and parents are claiming their kids are easier to deal with. So, why isn't this a thing and instead a rather long-winded rant with pretty pictures on the internet? Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. A lot of the reasons why come from misinformation, knee-jerk reactions, and just being unaware that this was an issue. So, when I say, hey, let's start the school day from 10, it's not because I feel like I want to coddle the kids or pander to teens wanting to sit up late playing Xbox and looking at cat pictures on the internet. I'm not spitting in the face of tradition or criticizing how you went to school, nor is implementing a late start time a nefarious scheme to ill-prepare the students for the workforce. It comes from a good place, a place that wants to help students be the best they can be. And unlike many other pie-in-the-sky solutions, teaching philosophies, or unobtainable answers, this one is obtainable, realistic, and achievable with almost little to no effort by everyone involved. So while my personal teaching philosophy is to ensure all students aren't afraid to speak in front of their peers, that we need to embrace technology and what it has to offer while providing a positive environment that enables all kids to socialize and get to know one another, here's something that can at least be achieved in my lifetime. So let's all enjoy the benefits an extra hour of sleep provides and just push the clocks back an hour. And that's my personal teaching philosophy. Thank you.